Troubleshooting printers. One setup, printers tend to run with few issues, assuming that you install the proper driver and keep the printer well maintained. But printer errors do occasionally develop. Let's take a look at the most common print problems, as well as problems that crop up with specific printer types. So we're looking at the general problems first, right? And then we will look at the specific errors for specific types of printers. Note, every printer is different. Read the documentation included with your printer to learn how you can perform the tasks listed in this section. So the tasks in that section will happen differently on different printers. Get familiar with your printer to figure out how to adjust it. All right. Troubleshooting general issues. Printers of all stripes share some common problems, such as print jobs that don't print, strangely sized prints, and misalignment. Other issues include disposing of consumables, sharing multiple printers, and crashing on power. Let's take a look at some of these general troubleshooting issues. But let's start with a recap of the tools of the trade. All right. The tools of the trade are tools that you need to troubleshoot specific problems, right? And they include a multimeter for troubleshooting electrical problems such as faulty wall outlets. So if your printer isn't coming on at all, you want to check with the wall outlet, right? Various cleaning solutions such as denatured alcohol, so you can clean things like your rollers in your printer and the body of the printer if needed, and even things like the boards, because you may have residue building up on the boards that you need to clean up, or you need to clean up the contacts with an eraser or that sort of thing. An extension magnet for grabbing loose screws in tight spaces and cleaning up iron-based toner. Now, most of your toolkits, if you have anything more than a 15-piece toolkit, it might come with a magnet, right? And you might ask yourself, why does it come with a magnet? Because we know that we do not use magnets on your computers for fear of one, well, the main thing is corrupting the data that is stored on your magnetic drives, right? However, the magnet does have a place, right? We can use it for one, temporarily, and I say temporarily, magnetizing the tip of a screwdriver for grabbing screws or inserting screws, the purposes of inserting screws, right? Or for cleaning up toner, iron-based toner, and grabbing screws that might fall inside of a printer. That's a pretty common issue. You're trying to unscrew the printer and the screw falls inside of the printer, and it falls in a place that you can't exactly get in to reach it. The magnet would come in really handy for actually attracting the screw and getting it out of the printer. An optical disc or USB thumb drive with test patterns for checking print quality. And again, most printers would include their own tests, so you can actually just navigate through the printer settings and tell the printer test page, or just go into the printers and drivers, right-click on the printer and tell the printer test page, right? But if you want to check specific quality issues, right, then you might want to work with your specific pattern, right? And of course, your trusty screwdriver, both a Phillips and a flathead. Because if you bring just one kind, you will probably need the other. As a matter of fact, these days, you might even need a complete kit, because I've seen printers that come with hex screws and other specialty heads that are not just Phillips and flathead. But you will find it in your standard PC repair kit, okay? So, work prepared. Let's look at some of the errors or things we might need to troubleshoot. A print job that never prints. You have a job, whether it be text or image, you click File, Print, you select your right printer and you click Print, but nothing comes out of the printer. First, you need to check all of the obvious things. Is the printer on? Is it connected? Is it online? Does it have paper? Is your computer online? If you cannot connect to the printer, check all cables, port, and power involved. If everything is plugged in and ready to go, check the appropriate printer applet for your version of Windows. If you don't see the printer you're looking for, you need to reinstall it using the Add Printer wizard. So it might just be that your printer is not installed, although you should have selected the right printer when you click print, right? If you attempt to use a printer shared by another computer, but Windows pops up with an access denied error, you might not have permission to use the printer. Go to the host system, meaning the system that the printer is connected to. Check the security tab of the printer properties dialog box and make sure your user account is allowed to use the printer. Now, again, you want to have it specified for your user account. You could easily just tell it to make everyone print, but that would open your printer for everybody who has access to the network to print on it, and that may not necessarily be a good thing. All right. So if you're not letting everybody print, make sure that your user account on the computer that you're using is allowed to use the printer. Assuming the printer is in good order, it's time to look at the spooler. You might see the spooler status either by double-clicking on the printer's icon in the appropriate printer control panel applet, or by double-clicking the tiny printer icon in the notification area if it is present. And the notification area is the little area by your time and your date on the the taskbar, right? Where your printer icon shows up for a couple seconds once you send a printer to print, right? If you're having a problem, the printer icon will almost always be there. And figure 2728 shows the print spooler open. I'm sure all of us knows what the print spooler is. That is where what we would open to see the list of jobs that have been sent to the printer. That is also where we would go if we wanted to cancel a particular job that was sent to the printer via the computer. We would open up the print spooler, right click on the job and select cancel, right, or delete job. Print spoolers can easily overflow or become corrupt due to a lack of disk space, too many print jobs, or one of 1,000 other factors. In other words, lots of things can go wrong with your print spooler, right? The status window shows all of the pending print jobs and enables you to delete, start, or pause jobs. I usually just delete the affected print jobs and try again. Print spoolers are handy. If the printer goes down, you can actually just leave the print job in the spooler until the printer comes back online. And once the printer comes back online, the print spooler will automatically send all of the jobs in the queue to the printer one by one, and you will essentially get everything out that you. Are you asking a question? Somebody else asking a question? No? Okay.
No.
All right. If you have a printer that isn't coming on anytime soon, you can simply delete the print job in the spooler window and try another printer. If you have problems with the print spooler, you can get around them by changing your print spool settings. And to do that, you go into your printers or your devices and printers applet, right click on the icon of the printer in question and choose printer properties. In the resulting properties dialog box, you can see that in figure 2729. Choose
Question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Can another printer print from the same spooler?
Well, is one spooler you have, that manages all of your printers.
Okay.
But I believe I understand the question that you're asking. So yes.
Yeah,
You have.
I asked that because you said to cancel the job.
Yes.
Rather than.
So especially in the case of network printers, right? If you have a print job that is being sent to a particular port, right? And let's say the printer that you expect to be on that port is not the printer that's on that port. It can actually print it to another printer or whatever printer is on that port. Yeah. So you'll see something come out. The issue is you might not get what you want to come out. So you might just get garbage printout. You might get a set of pages. You might print one page. You might get 60 pages with a set of rubbish on it because the printer simply does not understand the commands that have been sent to it because that is the wrong print driver for the printer. So yes, it can happen, but you don't necessarily want it to happen because you might get unpredictable results.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And if you look at in the case of printer emulation, it works similar to that, where you actually install a print driver that is not for that specific printer, but it has the basic commands down so that it can do your basic printing for you, right? Even though you may get issues doing raster prints, high graphics, high resolution, and so on. But the answer to your question is yes. You can send the print job to the wrong printer and the spooler still actually sends it across and it can print out. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, you did.
All right. So to avoid that, really and truly, you just want to make sure when you click print, you select the right printer, right? From the list before you send out your job, and then you should be fine. Okay. So let's look at changing your spool settings again. If you have problems with your print spooler, right? Your print spooler keeps hanging up, or for some reason you're getting another error, you can go into your devices and printers applet, right click on the printer that you having the issue with, and choose printer properties. And the resulting properties dialog box, which you can see in figure 2729, right? You choose print directly to the printer radio button on the advanced tab and click OK. So you see right here, it says print directly to the printer. Typically, what you have it selected is spool print documents, so program finishes printing faster, right? But if your spooler is giving problems, you can print directly to the printer. What I will do is send the printer, have your computer manage the print job and send it to the printer bypassing the spooler. All right.
Cool.
All right. Note that this window also offers you the choice of printing immediately. That is, starting to print pages as soon as the spooler has enough information to feed to the printer, or holding up on printing until the entire job is spooled. Again, that is if you're choosing to use the spooler, right? You can choose to start printing immediately, right? Or as quickly as you can, or start printing after the entire job is spooled or the entire job is sent to the printer. So you can go through these options if you're experiencing any issues with your print spooler to see if you can get around it, okay? If that isn't enough, meaning you're still not getting through, your print spooler is still giving you errors, your print jobs are not going through, you can try restarting the print spooler service. To do that, open the start menu, right click on computer and select manage. You'll need administrator privileges to continue. Or you can also just pull up your services. So you can click start and type services. Right? And that will bring up your services applet, which looks like this. All right. Let me just show you rather than reading it. Then we look for print spooler. All right. So MNOP. Print spooler. Everybody can see my screen, right? You can see currently my print spooler service is running. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Right. So sometimes your print spooler can hang, right? And you may notice that if you send a job to the printer, you cannot delete it. It's stuck in the print queue, no matter how we tell it, delete, clear queue, delete job, that job is staying in the queue. That means your print spooler is essentially hung. The easy way to get around that is by coming to your services, stopping the service, right? I'm gonna stop my service right now, click on stop. I will stop the print spooler service, right? And then you can restart it. Or you could have just clicked the restart, which would have done the same thing, stop and start it. If I click on restart. So you would stop it and start it back one time. Typically, that is enough to clear the print queue or get the print spooler actually to start responding so you can clear the print queue. Okay? So that is something else you can try if you're having issues with your print spooler. Another possible cause for a stalled print job is that the printer is simply waiting for the correct paper. Laser printers in particular have settings that tell them what size paper is in their standard paper tray or trays. If the application sending a print job specifies a different paper size, for example, it wants to print a standard number 10 envelope or perhaps a legal sheet, but the standard paper tray only holds 8.5 by 11 letter paper, the printer usually pauses and holds up the queue until somebody switches out the tray or manually feeds the type of paper that it requires. You can usually override this pause even without having the right paper by pressing OK or the go button on the printer, right? But it can have unexpected results. So my advice is try to feed the right paper to the printer, especially on laser printers, okay? Strange sizes. A print job that comes out an unexpected size will usually point to a user mistake in setting up the print job. You might have adjusted the scaling or set an actual size, right? All applications have a print command and a page setup interface. The page setup interface enables you to define a number of print options which vary from application to application. Figure 2730 shows the page setup options for Microsoft Word. Make sure the page is set up properly before you blame the printer for a problem. All right, so you see, you can configure your margins, and sometimes your margins may be so small that your printer tries to print beyond the margin it can print, and you have your image being clipped. You can also select your paper and configure your layout. All right, so these are your page setup options in Microsoft Word. If you know the page is set up correctly, recheck the printer drivers. If necessary, uninstall and reinstall the printer drivers. If the problem persists, you may have a serious problem with the printer's print engine, but that comes up as a likely answer only when you continually get the same strangely sized printouts using a variety of applications, which is a rare occurrence. All right. So now we're just going through the problems. They're very straightforward. You have the problem and or the symptom rather, and then the potential problem and solution. So we're just going to run through them. Feel free to stop me if you need me to go over anything in more detail. So misaligned or garbage prints. Misaligned or garbage printouts invariably point to a corrupted or incorrect driver. Remember, I mentioned that you can print to the wrong print driver or as you said, to the wrong print spooler, right? But you will end up getting misaligned or more likely garbage printouts, as I explained, right? So make sure you're using the right driver. It's hard to mess it up, but not impossible. And then uninstall and reinstall the printer driver if you're still having the same issue. If the problem persists, you may be asking the printer to do something it cannot do. For example, you may be printing to a PostScript printer with a PCL driver. Check the printer type to verify that you haven't installed the wrong type of driver for that printer. So if you're getting misaligned or garbage print, it is a point to you using the wrong driver, or you sending the print to the wrong printer, or you asking the printer to do something that it cannot physically do. Dealing with consumables. All printers tend to generate a lot of trash in the form of consumables. We have ink cartridges, we have toner cartridges, we have waste bins, we have used drums, we have expired fuses and so on, right? You have ribbons, even paper, right? In today's environmentally sensitive world, many laws regulate the proper disposal of most printer components. Be sure to check with the local sanitation department or disposal services company before throwing away any component. Of course, you should never throw away toner cartridges. Certain companies will pay for used cartridges. Now, my word on that is we live in Dominica, which is in the middle of the Caribbean or the middle of nowhere, let's put it that way. And we don't typically do much recycling. And typically none of us want to pay money to send an empty cartridge away for recycling. So we don't have too many options for proper disposal, recycling, of these components, so we are just left to do away with it or throw it away. But keep in mind that most of those components are intended to be recycled or reused in some way. Okay. And a further note on that is most of these consumables, for instance, if you buy a brand new printer toner, it will come with what we call the MSDS, the Material Safety Data Sheet, which gives you important information regarding hazardous materials and their use, the procedures for handling, emergency instructions, and so on. So any component that is hazardous, that uses chemicals, that can be harmful to your skin or eyes, or requires special instructions, will come with what we call a material safety data sheet that gives you all of the instructions. It might include things like, if you get it in your eye, flush with water for 5 minutes continually and contact the poison control center. Whatever instructions that it gives you, these are the instructions that you should follow in the event of an emergency, all right, for your own safety. All right. Crashes on power up. Both laser printers and computers require more power during their initial power up, which is the post, right? The power on self-test on a computer and the warm-up on a laser printer. So they require more power on the initial power up than once they are up and running. Hewlett-Packard recommends a reverse power up. Turn on the laser printer first and allow it to finish its warm-up before turning on the computer. This avoids having two devices during their peak loads simultaneously. So if you have a computer and a printer that constantly crash on power, so you come in the morning, you put on the computer and the printer, but the printer crashes and it goes off. It may be that you are just pulling more power than you are able to, or you're trying to pull more power than you're able to from the outlet. So the recommendation for that is power up your computer by itself, and then your printer by itself. HP recommends you reverse power up, meaning you power up your printer first and then your computer, because typically the printers can actually draw more power than the computer, right? Remember those high voltage power supplies? So if you have issues with that, see if the reverse power up solves your issue. Well, display screen malfunction. There's not much that you can do, but the small menu display screen, included on many modern printers and multifunction devices, can, like any other display screen, have a number of issues such as freezing, not coming on at all, displaying a single color, or artifacts such as lines showing up on the display. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do about this problem. Turning the device off and back on is a good start. Some manufacturers recommend completely unplugging it for a few minutes. If the screen is still misbehaving, but the device is otherwise functional, and the problem didn't appear immediately after a firmware update, it's time to take the device to a service center, meaning somewhere where they can take out that old screen, replace it with a new screen that works, and get the printer back up and running. So these are your general troubleshooting or your general errors that you might encounter with all printers in general, and you might need to troubleshoot. Let's look at troubleshooting impact printers. Before we continue, can you guys tell me what's an impact printer? You guys remember? Impact printer. So an impact printer is a printer that physically makes contact with the paper when it prints, such as a typewriter or a dot matrix. And their main purpose is basically to allow you to create a photocopy or carbon copy, rather, of your printout at one time. Rather than having to print a first print and then print a copy, you can create a carbon copy with one print, okay? Impact printers require regular maintenance, but will run forever as long as you're diligent. Keep the pattern which is the roller or plate in which the pins impact, and the printhead clean with denatured alcohol. Be sure to lubricate the gears and pulleys according to the manufacturer's specifications. Never lubricate the printhead, however, because the lubricant will smear and stain the paper. Don't forget to replace the ink ribbon every so often or when you notice your prints getting faded on an impact printer. But let's look at some issues you may need to troubleshoot. Bad looking text. If you have white bars going through the text, right, that point to a dirty or damaged printhead, try cleaning the printhead with a little denatured alcohol. If the problem persists, replace the printhead. Printheads for most printers are readily available from the manufacturer or from companies that rebuild them. If the characters look chopped up at the top or bottom, the printhead probably needs to be adjusted, and you will need to refer to your manufacturer instructions or your printer manual for proper adjustment procedure. All right. If you have a bad looking page, meaning your page is covered with dots and smudges, looking like you shake black pepper all over the page, right, after it was printed, the platen is dirty. Clean the platen with denatured alcohol. You could also use compressed air, okay? If the image is faded, you know the ribbon is good, try adjusting the printhead closer to the platen. If the image is okay on one side of the paper but fades as you move to the other, the platen is out of adjustment. Platens are typically difficult to adjust, so your best plan is to take it to the manufacturer's local warranty or repair center, or you can try it yourself if you can locate a repair manual. All right. And now the basic issues you're gonna have with impact printers. Any questions? Should be pretty straightforward, right? Okay. Troubleshooting thermal printers. And can somebody give me an example of a thermal printer?
Those are the POS.
Those what?
Those are the POS.
Right, those are the point of sale that give you a little receipt to the little black text on it. And in the days we used to get our top up at the point of sale as well, or if some people still do that, that's that little paper you get with your receipt telling you where you get your top up. So compared to other printer styles, thermal printers are simple to troubleshoot and maintain. With direct thermal printers, you only need to worry about three things: the heating element, the rollers, and the paper. So your heating element is either working or it's not. If it's not, you need to change it. The rollers either work or they not. If they don't work, you probably need to either oil it or use alcohol to clean it off, right? And of course, all of those, well, most of those thermal printers use specific paper, so you will need to get the proper paper that can fit through it, okay? With thermal wax printers, you also need to care for the wax ribbon. To clean the heating element, turn off the thermal printer and open it according to the manufacturer's instructions. Use denatured alcohol, which is what you use for all printer cleaning, right? And a lint-free cloth to wipe off the heating element. You might need to use a little pressure to get it completely clean. Clean the rollers with a cloth or compressed air. You want to keep them free of debris so they can properly grip the paper. And replacing the paper is as easy as sliding off the old roll and replacing it with a new one. Remember to feed the paper through the heating element, because otherwise you won't print anything. Replacing the ribbon is similar to replacing the roll of paper. Make sure to feed it past the heating element or the printer won't work properly. And your printer manufacturer should include any special instructions for installing a new ribbon. One note here, for a lot of those thermal printers, it does matter which way you put in the roll of paper. The papers come in little rolls, right? If you put it in backwards, a lot of times it will not print. So just make sure you put in the roll of paper in the right way and you use the right type of roll, the right size and the right type. Okay. And that is basically it for firmware printers. Not much you can do or you ever have to do. Troubleshooting inkjet printers. Inkjet printers are reliable devices that require little maintenance as long as they're used within their design parameters. High-use machines require more intensive maintenance. Because of the low price of these printers, manufacturers know that people don't want to spend a lot of money keeping them running. If you perform even the most basic maintenance tasks, they will soldier on for years without a whimper. Inkjets generally have a built-in maintenance programs that you should run from time to time to keep your inkjet in good operating order. So the printer maintenance would include things like head cleaning, clean print heads, align your print heads so you can get the best quality printout. You might need to do a deep cleaning of your print head, right? Sometimes that is a separate option if a basic cleaning doesn't work, or you might need to calibrate it in different ways, right? Most of these newer printers include the printer servicing or the printer maintenance options somewhere on the printer settings screen, right? Or on the printer properties screen. So, or in the case of inkjet printers, it's sometimes installed as a separate application that you can find on the group of applications that was installed with your printer, right? And this is an example of well, maintenance tasks that you can run on a network printer. Okay. All right. I think that's straightforward enough. Everybody knows about the printer alignment. The first time you set up a printer or you put a new ink, it asks you to perform the print head alignment, which is a type of calibration, right? To ensure that you get the best quality outcome. But let's look at the inkjet problems. So there are some very specific printer problems that you only encounter with inkjet printers, right? And that's what we're going through. So did I say that you never should clean an inkjet? Well, that may be true for the printer itself, but there is one part of your printer that will benefit from an occasional cleaning, and that is the inkjet printer's head nozzles. The nozzles are the tiny pipes that squirt the ink onto the paper. And a common problem with inkjet printers is the tendency for the ink inside the nozzles to dry, even when not used for a relatively short time, blocking or clogging any ink from exiting. Your printer is telling Windows that it's printing and feeding paper through, but either nothing is coming out, or certain colors are printing, or you might find that your print is not of the quality that you might expect. So there are some areas that are printed well, but there are lines on your, or clear banding lines on your print, and you can see print quality issues, right? Basically, the culprit is almost certainly dried up ink clogging the nozzles. So you might want to run a print head cleaning, right? Sometimes you have the option for doing a basic cleaning, a deep cleaning, or sometimes you may have to manually clean the print head, right? It's not something that you want to really do because the printers can be sensitive, but in the event of the cleaning, the software cleaning process not really working, you can use denatured alcohol and a cotton swab to just essentially clean up the clogged ink from your print heads. And what your printer looks like and how you get to it varies from printer to printer. So we're not going into it. Another problem that arises is the dreaded multi-sheet grab. When you tell it to print one sheet, but your printer just takes all of the sheets in your printer, or it takes 10 sheets or 20 sheets or 2 sheets, right? And attempts to print on it. So this is often not actually your printer's fault. Humidity or moisture in the air can cause your sheets of paper to stick to each other. But sometimes the culprit can be an overheated printer. So you've been using the printer consistently, right, for the last 10 minutes, printing, and it's overheating. So it's getting hot. You can give the printer a little break, right? Take a break, give it 5 minutes to cool off before you print on it again. And also, one of the things that you should always do before you put in your paper in any paper tray is to fan through the stack. Flip through the paper just to make sure that they're all separate sheets and they're not stuck together. All right. Finally, check to see if excess ink overflow is a problem. In the area where the print heads pack, look for a small tank or tray that catches excess ink from the cleaning process. If the printer has one, check to see how full it is. If this tray overflows onto the main board or even the power supply, it will kill your printer. If you discover that the tray is about to overflow, you can remove excess ink by inserting a twisted paper towel into the ink tank to soak up some of the ink. It is advisable to wear gloves while doing this, all right? Latex or vinyl gloves, and clean up any spilled ink with a damp paper towel and distilled water. Do not get it on your board or your paper or any other part of the printer that looks sensitive. All right. Some inkjet printers actually have a removable waste bottle that you can take out and empty out, but that is more again for the larger industrial printers. Okay. Now on to troubleshooting laser printers, but we have less than a minute, so we're gonna take 2 minutes and come back in to wrap up. Everybody go with that?
Cool. Yes, sir.
Okay. So take a quick 2 minutes break and look out for the link again in the group chat.